So we've spoken about what borderline personality disorder is. We have defined it, I think, to the fullest. And we've also had a video last week that says this is how you know that you have borderline personality disorder. And now we're going to talk about what causes borderline personality disorder in depth. Are you born with it, or does something cause it? Okay, so borderline personality disorder has a biological predisposition, which means that it is now recently believed that there are neurological and biological makes a person be at risk of having borderline personality disorder. But as you know, there are people who have similar or whatever those biological predispositions are, and they don't have borderline personality disorder. And the second part of borderline personality disorder is the environmental predisposition, which from the beginning of the discovery of borderline personality disorder to now, it was always that people with the high ACEs, if you don't know what ACEs is, please go to one of the beginning of my videos, when I started this channel, I talk about ACEs and ACEs scores and what it is and how it affects you and your life. Okay, so back is that people with high ACEs were the people who typically suffered with borderline personality disorders, meaning that people who are sexually, emotionally, psychologically abused, people who are neglected, people who were beat, people who suffered a lot of hardships, people who are raised by parents with mental illness, people who have a family member who has been to jail. Those are the people who typically suffered from borderline personality disorder, meaning that people who did not have safety growing up are the ones who typically suffered or suffer from borderline personality disorder. Clear so far? I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but not everybody who suffers abuse have borderline personality disorder. That's right too. So not everybody with a high ACEs has a borderline personality disorder. So now that's why they're saying that there's a combination of both, right? In the past, the large number of people with high ACEs were the ones. So basically, in short, the large number of people diagnosed with borderline personality disorder have one thing in common: high ACEs. Now we hear that there are reports of people who show symptoms or diagnosis, who have diagnosis of borderline personality disorder and do not have a high ACEs score at all, and who have no traces of child abuse. But that research is still very much in its early stages. We will see where it goes or how it goes. So those are the two things, right? So I want you to remember that any mental health issue diagnosed early, dealt with correctly early, makes all the difference in your life. So you might not like the sound of the word borderline personality disorder. You might have shame, because people with borderline personality disorder have a lot of shame, you know. But I want you to know that the sooner you can make peace with it, it's not your fault that you have borderline personality disorder. Because remember, these are the people who feel intensely, and these are the people who are often very much abused. And so they go from being a vulnerable child wanting connection to fearing the very same people who abuse them. So think about it. You need love, you need shelter, you need protection, you're a child. And the person who's supposed to give you protection, love, and shelter is the person who's abusing you. So do you negate the abuse and just throw yourself and your fears away and get the shelter and the food? Or do you fight and say, stop abusing me, I don't deserve this, right? So these are the people who for some reason they feel intensely. You know, there's also a misconception that borderline personality people, I've heard somebody that says their psychologist told them that they have borderline personality disorder. This is their inability to withstand emotions. And I think this is far from the truth. Because people with borderline personality disorder feel intensely. These are the people who feel emotion deeply to a point where it becomes unbearable. It's almost as if they don't know how to regulate themselves, you know? Like, I know that when I'm pissed, I need my space, right? Give me my space so that I can walk, so that I can breathe. They don't even know that. They're not aware that, okay, now I need space. And they're not even able to say, I need space, give me space. They just go from, I guess, then it to exploding. So they feel intense emotion or they feel no emotion. A lot of them, again, and I feel like I'm repeating myself, they get to a place where they just numb themselves because they either feel too much emotion or too little emotion. So that's why there are two personalities, right? So they struggle. So they also suffer from, they call it numbness, right? So that's basically what causes it. A hard childhood, abuse from childhood. These people did not feel safe growing up. These people grew up in very unpredictable home and situations. They grew up in very volatile situations, and they have parts of their brains that have not developed properly. So they find themselves as expecting that volatility and fearing the volatility, actually, to a point where they actually induce it. They make it happen. They become the reason for it. You know, it's like they fear being abandoned. So you come into their life, a friend or a psychologist or a lover, they are afraid that you're going to leave them. So they do things that is going to make you leave them. That's going to be too much for you, that you're going to say, hey, I can't stand this. Or they're going to try and leave you first before you leave them, right? It's you're a good person today, and then you're the worst person in the world tomorrow. Because that's where they grew up. They grew up in a place where sometimes it was safe, and out of nowhere it was unsafe, right? So that's what's causing it. I cannot really speak for the biological part because it's still new and in its early research stage. And as time goes by, I can't wait to see what the findings are. So far, the research that I did, it doesn't look like there's a lot of cases of the people with low ACEs and borderline personality disorders. But maybe my research was not thorough enough. But basically, that's what causes borderline personality disorder. If you have any question, leave it in the link below. Please like, share, and see you in the next video. Deuces.